Let's talk about the topic bryophytes. Okay, so bryophytes we otherwise call it as amphibians of plant kingdom, right? So amphibians of plant kingdom. So bryophytes include various mosses and liverworts. Liverworts, why do they named it as liverworts? Because it is liver-like shape. So this is the body, thalloid body, so which is liver-like. The shape is liver-like. That's why they named it as liverworts. Mosses in the sense those are like small sprouts, and whatever we are seeing is the liverworts, and this is the moss. So this is the liverwort mercantia, so which is dioecious in nature. You will be having a separate archegoniophore, so which is the sex organ present on the gametophyte, and this is the female sex organ present on the gametophyte and pteridophyte. Okay, archegoniophore possess archegonium and pteridophyte possess antheridium, and this is the thalloid body, and here we have the rhizoids, right? So these are the rhizoids, these are root like, and so this is the leafy in nature. And bryophytes include mosses and liverworts. This is the moss what you are seeing. So funaria, and this is the sphagnum. So funaria is the moss. Sphagnum is also moss. Sphagnum is famous for peat moss. So used to transshipment for living materials such as flowers, fruits. For those things we can use this peat moss. And this is foot setae capsule. These are the three things present. This is the sporophyte. Foot setae capsule. Foot plus seta plus capsule. These are the things we call it as sporophyte, and this is the leafy gametophyte, and we have the rhizoids, and this is the main axis, and this is the sphagnum. In the sphagnum we have antheridial branch and we have the archegonial branch. So this will comes under monoecious, because you can find the antheridial and archegonial, right? So sex organs will present in this branches. Okay, so in that way sphagnum is monoecious, and mercantia, which is liverworts, which is dioecious. In this picture itself you can able to understand that. So let's start discussing. Why do they call it as amphibians of plant kingdom? Because they can able to live in water as well as on the land. These are the first plants which came to the land, means terrestrial, not fully aquatic, not fully terrestrial, and commonly growing in moist shady areas in the hills. So we call this bryophytes as mosses as pioneer successors. Pioneer successor. Why we call it as pioneer successor is this can able to grow on the barren rocks also, right? So moist shaded areas in the hill that needs more water, mainly for sexual reproduction. So let us talk. Priorly going into this topic, we have to talk about alternation in the cycle. So the very first, whatever you are seeing the bryophytes in the damp, moist, shady places, you are seeing is none other than the gametophyte. What you are seeing is the gametophyte. So gametophyte is none other than N, right? This gametophyte can able to produce gametes. These gametes will unite to form zygote. This zygote will divide mitotically to form sporophyte. This sporophyte undergo meiosis to produce spores. Some spores will germinate to gametophyte. This is the life cycle for bryophytes. So let's talk about some other things. Bryophytes. This is a liverwort. We already have seen liverwort mercantia, and this is gemmacups. Gemmacups are none other than the asexual or vegetative propagules, and these are the rhizoids. And this is the archegoniophore and pteridophyte. Archegoniophore is female and pteridophyta is male. And coming to the word bryophytes. So bryophytes are also called amphibians of the plant kingdom. Remember, this is very, very important. What are the amphibians of the plant kingdom? Bryophytes. Because these plants can live in soil but are dependent on water. They can live in soil but they are dependent on water for sexual reproduction. Right? They usually occur in damp, humid and shaded localities. So they damp in nearby the water. They need moisture. They are live in shaded localities. They need water because they, for sexual reproduction, for the transferring of gametes, they need water. They play an important role in plant succession or bare rocks and soil. So coming to the plant succession, they can able to grow on barren rocks and soil like primary successors. They are primary successors. And we also call it as pioneer successors. Lichens and moss, they can able to germinate. The plant body of bryophyte is more differentiated than algae. So under Bryophyta, we get two things. One is algae and other one is fungi. Algae we have holdfast, stipe and frond. Root-like, stem-like, leaf-like. And when it comes to, even fungi also we call it as thalloid body. And let's talk about one more thing, that is bryophytes. For bryophytes we have foot, setae, capsule, right? So these are the parts, and here also there is no clear differentiation of root, stem and leaves. So is more differentiated, but when compared to algae it is more differentiated. This is thallus like, prostate are erect, because foot, setae and capsule they are erect, right? Even you can see the sphagnum which is more erect and attach it to the substratum by unicellular or multicellular rhizoids. They lack the true roots, stem or leaves. They may possess root-like, stem-like, leaf-like structures. The main plant body of bryophyte is haploid because the gametophyte is the dominant stage. It produces gametes. Hence, it is called gametophyte. The sex organs in the gametophytes are multicellular. You can see this is sex organ. So, Archegoniophore, which is a sex organ, and pteridophyta, which is a sex organ. Those are multicellular. The male sex organ we call it as antheridium. Antheridium is been holding by antheridophore. The female, they produce biflagellated anthrozoids. So because of this only we need water for the movement of flagella. Because there is no any pollinators, no. They have to depend on water, obviously. Anthrozoids. And next, the female sex organ we call it as archegonium. Is none other than, it consists of the flask shaped. So you will be having a flask shaped single egg. The anthrozoids are released into water where they come in contact with archegonium. An anthrozoid fuse with the egg to produce the zygote. Now the zygote will undergo reduction division to produce immediately, because they don't form into a sporozoite. The zygote that will happen in algae. Here in zygote, do not divide immediately. They will reproduce multicellular body, which we call it as sporophyte. Coming to the sporophyte, this is not free living but attached to the photosynthetic gametophyte. So if you can see here, this is the gametophyte and this is so this entire thing is the gametophyte, and here also you can see this entire thing is the gametophyte and this is the sporophyte. So but attaches and derives its nourishment from it. Some cells of sporophyte undergo reduction division. So some cells of sporophyte will undergo reduction division and produces haploid spores. These spores will germinate to produce gametophyte. Bryophytes in general have little economical importance, but some mosses will provide food for herbaceous mammals, birds, and other animals. Species of sphagnum, a moss, provide a peat that can have been used as a fuel and as a packing material. So fuel, that peat is used as a fuel, and at the same time, so packing material for transshipment of living material because of their capacity to hold water. Moss, along with lichens, are the first organism to colonize the rocks. Hence, they have great ecological value. It has low economical value but great ecological value. They decompose the rocks, making the substrate suitable for the growth of higher plants. Since mosses form a dense mat on the soil, they reduce the impact of falling rain and prevent of soil erosion. The bryophytes are divided into liverworts and moss. So let's see about what are liverworts. Coming to liverworts, why do they named it as liverworts is because of liver-like structure and mercantia. So the liverworts grow in moist, shady habitats such as banks of streams, marshy ground, damp soil, bark of tree, deep in the wood also. The plant body of liverworts is thyroid, so mercantia. So the thallus is dorsiventral and closely oppressed to the substrate. So the leafy members are tiny leaf-like appendages. They are arranged in 2 rows on the stem-like structure. So you can see here, this is a liverwort. So 2 rows. So this is one leaf and this is one leaf. So asexual reproduction in liverworts takes place by fragmentation of the thalli or by the formation of specialized vegetative propagules called gemma cups. So gemme is plural, gemma is singular. Gemma are green, multicellular, asexual buds, which develop in small receptacle called gemma cups located on the thalli. The gemma or the gemme becomes detached from the, so gemma is none other than the asexual buds, so it will develop on gemma cups, okay. So from the parent body and germinate to form a new individual. During sexual reproduction, the male and female sex organs are produced either on the same or on the different thalli. The sporophyte is differentiated into foot, setae and capsule. Right? After meiosis, spores are produced within the capsule. These spores will germinate to form free living gametophytes. Right? Free living gametophytes. And next coming to moss. The predominant stage of the life cycle of moss is gametophyte, same like which consists of 2 stages. First stage is protonema. So which is develops directly from the spore. It is creeping, green, branched and frequently filamentous stage. The second stage is leafy stage, which develops from the secondary protonema as a lateral bud. So they consist of upright, slender axis bearing spirally arranged leaves. They are attached to the soil through multicellular rhizoids or branches. So actually for liverworts you have unicellular rhizoids. For moss you have multicellular rhizoids. This stage bears the sex organs. So usually the sex organs are present in the gametophyte. And vegetative reproduction in moss is by fragmentation and budding in the secondary protonema. There you have gemma and gemma cups. Here you have budding of secondary protonema. In sexual reproduction, the sex organs are antheridia and archegonia are present on the leafy shoots. After fertilization, the zygote will develop into sporophyte consisting of foot, setae and capsule. The sporophyte in moss is more elaborate than the liverworts. So the capsule consists of spores. The spores formed after the meiosis. The mosses has an elaborate mechanism of spore dispersal. So common examples for moss is Funaria, Polytrichum and Sphagnum. Mercantia is for liverworts. So we can remember the word SPF. So Sphagnum, Polytrichum, Funaria. So let's discuss about pteridophytes. So pteridophytes are the first true vascular plants. So pteridophytes are usually include horsetails and ferns. Pteridophytes are used for medicinal purposes and they are the soil binders. They are also frequently grown as ornamentals. Evolutionarily, they are the first terrestrial plants to possess vascular tissue. And xylem and phloem. You shall study more about these tissues. The pteridophytes is found in cool, damp and shady places, same like bryophytes. Though some may flourish well in sandy soil conditions also. You may recall that in bryophytes, the dominant phase of life cycle is gametophytic plant body. However, in pteridophytes, the main plant body is sporophyte, which is differentiated into true roots, stem and leaves. You can see in this picture, these are the true roots and this is the stem and these are the leaves. And true roots, stem and leaves we have. So what we are seeing, this is Selaginella, this is Equistem, this is fern and this is Salvinia. So these organs possess well differentiated vascular tissue. The leaves in the pteridophytes are small, which we call it as microphyllous. And as in Selaginella, you can able to see large, macrophyllous. So in ferns it is macrophyllous. You have to understand, like in Selaginella it is microphyllous. So in ferns it is macrophyllous, but in Selaginella it is microphyllous. Okay, Selaginella microphyllous, fern it is macrophyllous. So the sporophyte bear the sporangia that subtended by leaf-like appendages. So actually below the leaf-like appendages we have the sporangia. So, and that's why we call that as sporophylls, because the spore bearing one. In some cases, the sporophylls may form a distinct compact structure, which we call it as strobili or cone. So Selaginella and Equistem. So in Selaginella and Equistem, you will be having a cone like structure, which we call it as strobilus or cone. So here all the sporophylls are formed into a compact structure. So sporangia produce spores by meiosis in spore mother cell. The spores germinate gives rise to inconspicuous small but multicellular free living, mostly photosynthetic thalloid gametophyte called prothallus. So the gametophytes require these gametophytes require cool, damp, shady places to grow. Because of their specific restricted requirement and the need of water for fertilization, the spread of living pteridophytes is limited and restricted to narrow geographical areas, because the gametophytes bear male and female sex organs called antheridia and archegonia respectively. Water is required for the transfer of anthrozoids. So the male gametes are released from the antheridia to the mouth of archegonia. Fusion of male with the egg present in the archegonia result in the formation of zygote. The zygote thereafter produce a multicellular well differentiated sporophyte, which is the dominant phase of pteridophytes. In the majority of the pteridophytes, all the spores are similar kind. Some plants, such plants we call it as homosporous. Right? Generally, like Selaginella and Salvinia, which produces two kinds of spores. Macrospores is for female, microspores is for small, is known as heterosporous condition. So the megaspores and microspores are germinate to give rise to female and male gametophyte respectively. So the female gametophytes in these plants are retained on the parent sporophyte. So this female gametophyte in these plants are retained on the parent sporophytes for a variable periods. The development of zygote into young embryos takes place within the female gametophyte itself. This event is the precursor to the seed habit, considered as an important step for evolution. So the pteridophytes are further classified into 4 classes: Psilopsida, Xylotum; Lycopsida, Selaginella, Lycopodium; and Sphenopsida, Equestum; Pteropsida, Bryopteris, Teris, Adiantum. So if you can see here, Psilopsida is not given in the picture. So this will comes under Lycopsida. This will comes under Sphenopsida. And this will comes under Pteropsida. So right, these are the things you have to remember when it comes to this. So this is the NCERT line by line when it comes to bryophytes and pteridophytes, okay, of plant kingdom. Okay, so thank you.